Yes.
All right, clicking going live.
We did it! Oh my god.
We're live.
So
Here
proud
we
of us.
ACO. We're here.
Yes.
I'm so
All right,
happy.
clicking going live.
We did that flawlessly. Couldn't have been better. No behind the scenes needed.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm going to murder both of you when I get into town in 2 weeks. You're like, what happened to Art of War? I don't know, but Brad's currently in prison and those guys are dead.
You just dropped a bomb on our entire YouTube channel and didn't even highlight that. You're coming to visit us in 2 weeks. What's that about?
I'm excited. Not only am I going to visit you, but I'm taking my wife down to Harry Potter World. So
Ooh.
Man,
I'm
that's super
doing
awesome.
work and play, and I'm doing wife work and other work. I mean, I was gonna say real work, but I feel that if I said that, she would come in and stab me. She's not.
This
gonna do
this is real work, Chester. You're gonna come here. We're gonna make you play a game of Warhammer. It's gonna be a wonderful hard day at work.
I'm
We're
excited.
gonna throw in my AdMech week after week, game after game.
Oh, that sounds great. I mean, AdMech are super
Oh,
easy. They're not even a very powerful army. It's one of the books that I felt that I was most disappointed with in power level. I mean, it's just
No, definitely.
It just-
I feel like we'll give you a couple layups with the AdMech to warm you up, and then maybe if you can handle that, we'll get you something else.
then we'll just tell me to play my Dark Eldar and be like, we'll give you a layup into Tau, but a specific Tau.
No
So,
joke.
all of the things. Guys, let's talk about our ACO mojo. I wanted to get everybody together. I just wanted to talk. I want to talk about stuff.
I'm excited. This
I'm
is
not
like the
gonna lie.
best weekend ever. I'm
Dude,
so excited.
I'm coming down. I'm super excited. One of the biggest things is I haven't seen a lot of you guys in forever. And I'm not going to lie, I
That was
was
a
super
huge
excited
thing.
to see my friends, but I was also excited to see there's so many people that I've been interacting with in Art of War clinics, coaching, and everything that I've literally never met in face-to-face because it's been COVID the whole time for almost 2 years, guys. And we got to see a lot of people in Atlantic City, which I thought was fantastic. The Betty White of 40K himself. Yes.
No, absolutely. That's always my favorite parts of these tournaments is the social aspects. It's like you said, I haven't seen you guys in like a year and a half. COVID happened. Finally, we can see the end of that. And it's awesome. It's great to see everyone back. And the community is so much bigger than it was. I used to like know every single person at these tournaments because they're so small. And it's grown into such a big community where everyone is new and excited about 40K and the way it's going. It's very nice to see. I'm all about it.
It was an absolute pleasure. I got to play against 2 different War Room members, our wonderful War Room members at the Art of War. And in addition to that, we got some signed objective mats heading out.
Yes.
And it was a pleasure seeing everybody. A lot of people came up to us, talked about how much they enjoyed the stream games that we put on, and all the wonderful things that we're doing with the Art of War. So that was by far, in a way, my favorite part of it.
Feels like I'm asking for more Brad.
I found a way to get the comments on my phone. This is great.
I'm so excited that you exist in this. So, one of the big things, and of course, dogs.
There's dogs. We love dogs at all.
We love
I don't love my dogs at all. I love my one dog. The other 2 dogs are 1,000 years old and are squatters in my home and refuse to die or leave. But
A lot of love for dogs here at Art of War.
okay, I was to say Nick just phased out of existence here. Let's talk about like
Do
what
I?
the things that. No, you're good now. Stop moving about. We don't need you all animated. You keep.
Just stay still there.
Yeah, just-
5 seconds.
Hard for me.
Just
It's hard for me.
sit. Let's talk about the things that we liked at ACO. We had a big tournament. We did the entire crew. We did very, very well on that. Let's give ourselves I pat myself on the back, but my T-Rex arms are way
Golf
too
clap.
short
Nice golf clap.
to do that. And I think that one of the things is we showed that you can play the game, you can be super cool, and you can do super well. And I think the thing is that, well, I know that I did, and I know that Siegs always does, and I think Nick occasionally does. We all did homework before the tournament. Tell me a little bit about your guys' pre-tournament prep, just to give people like a little bit an insight into what goes on before we go to a big tournament.
I want to hear Nick's homework.
You want me to lead it off?
I want to hear.
He's like, this will be the shortest answer, so we want to just get it out of the way.
All right, it's true. It will be the short sentence. So before this tournament, I realized everyone knows what Dark Eldar is about. And if I want to play Dark Eldar at this tournament, I need to innovate my Dark Eldar so I can stay ahead of the meta. So that's where I was like, I need something besides just Raiders full of good stuff inside of it. So I decided to put some Chronos in there. I saw one of our Warren members did really well with it at the Maryland Open. I was like, that's not a bad idea. I tried it. I loved it. So I kind of made that my own and put my own version of that. And from there, I just rolled the dice.
That's a lot of homework. It's a super deep dive by Mr. Nick Nanavati there. So I, on the other hand, actually played a faction that requires a brain. And a Giga Brain on the Tau Empire, Nick, I'm sure you're familiar with it. Yeah. So I did a lot of homework. I've been playing Tau on the stream games here at the Art of War kind of week in, week out over the last like 3-4 months. And slowly I've coalesced on, a core concept. It's got the big crisis unit, it's got the Riptide, a lot of breachers, Devilfish, Remora drones. What the right combo was, though, I had a lot of test games specifically into and just thinking about the Drukhari matchup because we knew that the FAQ unfortunately was not going to be affected ACOs, so they were going to have all, the cheap raiders, they were going to have all the extra command points, etc. And I knew they were going to be everywhere. Most of the top players going were going to run them. So you were going to play like 4 or 5 Drukhari players if you're up toward the top. I imagine like most of day 2, day 3 was going to be potentially Drukhari matchups. So I had to tailor my list specifically to try and beat Drukhari. And for that, the big thing, and I talk about this a lot on the Art of War podcast episode I just did, which is episode 1's on this very YouTube channel, you need to create a nice distance between yourself and the Drukhari army. And the best way to do that is not actually with Airburst, which I particularly enjoyed running because that ignores line of sight. Instead, I actually went with missile pods. Missile pods can destroy raiders in your opponent's deployment zone. Whether you go first or second, you should be able to get an angle to kill enough of the raiders on the ACO terrain. And at that point, you kind of cripple their mobility. At that point, even if you just start to whittle those raiders down, they're degraded, they move a lot slower, you reduce the amount of plays they can do on your side of the board. And gradually, this Tau army just picks up armies. Doesn't matter what they are. They could be Space Marines, tabling them. Could be, Raven Wing with all these bikes. I still managed to find a way to table that type of army. So Drukhari, with the defensive mechanics that they do have, it's nothing for Tau. So all I have to do is make sure that the crisis unit and my main models are able to fire each turn. And secondarily, I need to make sure I don't get into a giant points deficit early on. And so I was able to, in a lot of the matchups that I played, rack up a nice amount of primary points early, and so that into the late game when they had very few units left on the board, I would be able to max out my score. And this list, the Tau list that I ran, very reliably gets to 80 to 90 points a game. So if I can keep my opponent to, mid to low 70s, that's perfectly fine with me. I don't need to deny every point, just a couple turns of denying points, and that's how this list works. And it worked brilliantly at ACO.
You were focused.
Go ahead. I just want to make a joke here. Brad was like, what was your homework like for Tau? And Siegler was like, this is how everything about Tau works in Drukhari matchup.
I had to plan for the
Did we answer the question?
He kind of.
I guess. You had to plan for the Drukhari matchup to a science.
I mean, I guess that apparently you did play them 5 times. So.
Yeah, it was well practiced.
Well, I didn't realize that I could just choose one faction. See, my homework is a little different because I didn't think that I didn't just ignore all other factions and just go, I'm going to play Drukhari. I'm a boss. But
I'm going to day 2 and I'm going to play nothing but Drukhari, and I need to win that matchup. And that's what I emphasized.
I go into it weird. I'm so pessimistic on things because I bring such. Obviously, I brought it. By the way, Siegs is when I showed up, we put in lists, Siegs immediately just goes, if you don't get top 8, you failed. Anything above that is just what we expected.
Literally, word for word.
The days leading up to ACO, I was like, Siegs hasn't played a tournament since LVO when he won IGC on his grand scheme of I'm the best Warhammer player ever. And I was worried about him. Siegs, you haven't played a 40K game, a 40K tournament a year and a half. Your only games have been me, John, and Mark, in rotation. And I'm worried about you. Maybe you lost your edge. And Siegs is I am a robot, beep boop, bop, beep boop. And then he did this. So.
And I did it with Tau.
He did it with Tau.
Breviathan.
Yeah, it's true. That one of the quotes is, Brad, study what elevators are at future venues and what you can do so things can't fit down elevator shafts. By the way, the only shaft that thing could fit down was literally one elevator shaft had the big gap.
Can you pause to give context? Tell people the story, and then we can marvel.
We should just start talking about elevators.
Tell us the story, Brad.
Literally, I come down at day 2 and I feel Brad style, which is always bad. Imagine you've got a migraine headache and the flu. That's, every day. So I rock
Old man Brad,
That's
rocking
how
up
I
the old
roll
man
up.
lifestyle.
So I go downstairs and I'm literally pushing my crippled self, pulling my cart. And I, of course, have it half-answered. You guys have seen how I operate. Stuff's everywhere. And I had already broken off the top fin, so that's the only reason that it fit in this said elevator shaft. Dude bumps me. Raider decides, that's all. I don't need to be in life anymore, and dives off my cart. And literally goes like a pinball machine, hits like 2 or 3 times, and just slides down the elevator shaft. There's 2 things that are fantastic about this. One, dude that bumped me either is a 40K, not a 40K player, or gave 0 Fs because he was just like deuce out. He was like an 80s action movie star with an explosion behind him. Did not look back at all. The better part, and I wish I knew the guy, other 40K guy literally holds the elevator and like looking at me like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, nothing, man. It's in an elevator shaft. I can't do anything about this.
I want to tell my perspective of the story because while this is going on,
it's before Nick's Get Ice game.
Hold on. It's like 9:57 a.m. The round starts at like 10 a.m. Everyone is here early, and then everyone's starting. Like the round is functionally started. I'm just like, where's Brad? And then like the head TO is like, where's Brad? We're undefeated. We're on top table and going into day 2. And we're playing first thing in the morning. And I'm like, I don't know. I tried calling him. He didn't answer. Like everyone tried calling him. And Brad just rolls up like it's like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. on the dot with his like cart. And he's like, I'm missing a Raider. And I'm like, what? He's like, it fell down the elevator shaft.
He's like,
is this real?
What?
And then it's okay because it's me and Brad. So we just like pretend there's a Raider there. Like, we're like, eventually, he put one in reserve. I'm like, we'll just give you one of the dead ones.
Exactly. I'm like, Nick, you have to kill a Raider immediately so I can keep playing. He was like,
they can't come in from reserve.
He goes, what happens if I
Raider?
don't kill it? He just can't bring it in. You would have liked. I'm going to tell a good. I'm going to skip around a little bit because this goes right into the story. First off, Nick and I play the worst first turn ever because both of us decided to not put a unit on the board and look at each other and go, I need to put this unit on the board. And then continue to play.
It's so much better than that. So like this is me and Brad. Brad is like in a state of shambles. I'm pretty rough up myself because I don't believe in sleep during 40K tournaments. I choose not to. It's part of the practice regime. So we are rough, and it's like 10 in the morning, and we're playing, and I forget a unit of racks, and like the head judge is sitting right there. He just watched our table because we're the top table, and he knows me and Brad are like chill, we're friends, like it's okay. And so I'm like, Brad, I like no fear. The head judge is right here. I'm like, I forgot to put a unit of racks on the board. What do you want to do? He's like, where would they be? I'm like, they'd be in this Raider flaming you right now. He's like, all right. So
he just rolls the dice to flame me.
I'm just flaming them. and then the head judge is like, wow, you are very sporting. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, thanks, Brad. And then the next turn, Brad's like, Nick, I've completely forgotten my Hellions. This is like, sorry, this is in my shooting phase. Like, I've moved my army as if there's no Hellions on the table. And then Brad's like, Nick, I've completely forgotten my Hellions. And he's like, where? I was like, where do they be? He's like, right here behind this wall, ready to countercharge your whole army. I'm like, so this is the game of 40K we played.
The better part was at the beginning, Nick and I are talking about secondaries for like a while we're deploying. And Nick gives me a speech about, well, Brad, you don't like while we stand, we fight because, you're not as cagey of a player as me. And then Nick looks at the board for a couple of seconds and goes, I wonder if I put everything at the midline if you have enough stuff to kill me. And just pushes everything up.
You had reserved the one Raider because it had to go in reserve. Yeah. So I was like, I have a stuff advantage. And then I had turn 1, so I was like, I have to do that. So I was like, maybe I'll just go all in and see if he can't deal with it. And I was misled because there were no Hellions on the table, so I thought there wasn't as much stuff.
So I lure him in.
You really did. You really did. Like a perfect Hellion mid my turn deep strike after my shooting phase is complete is flawless.
Great strat.
So, it didn't even pay a command point for it.
That's how I roll.
So then we played a real game in the finals.
Yeah, then we played. It all worked out. It was the best as the head judge, Horton. Thanks for doing everything. Just looks at us and goes, Wow, you guys are unbelievably nice to each other. I'm just going to a different table. So things were happening. It was cool meeting every one of you guys. The Hellions were MVPs for me. We talked about the prep.
I want to talk about Siegs. Siegs hasn't talked in a while. Yeah. He gave us a whole matchup review about Dark Elder.
Was there any matches? I mean, you saw there was 249 people that you had to look over, and you looked over at Jakari and just went, nope. I mean, the top 8 was literally two dark angels and a Black Templar.
Number 1. I'm going to eliminate them all.
Yeah, I mean, Lyle has it right. He's like, Siege just called out Ogden and his Dark Angels and just went, nah. Would you like to hear about this army? Nope.
Siege, tell me about your ACO. What was the just tell me about it. Your words.
So unlike Nick and Brad, I was in great shape. Slept beautifully, prioritized the sleeping, and John and I, we were cuddled next to each other, talking 40K all night. That's the kind of 40K and prep work that we do. So it was me, Jack Harpster, and John Lennon sharing a hotel suite, and we did nothing but play 40K. We had ice cream on one of the nights as a little treat to ourselves, but otherwise we were hitting the books, studying the matchups.
You were in Atlantic City.
We were in Atlantic City in a casino, a hotel casino, nothing but 40K all the time.
I found out that there was a liquor store on the bottom floor and took advantage of that heavily.
I don't. My weekend will get us removed off of YouTube, but I'm just glad that you didn't have the weekend I had.
Also, I had a great weekend.
You should have went with us to eat that first restaurant, Nick. Sorry, that's not even the best thing, but the first day we went there, so we get in town, okay? And by the way, we drove, and I drove.
Wait, are you talking about the Italian place?
No. I'm going to give the preface what happens, because it was Werner. So also Werner, I don't remember, just messages me while we're driving. We're trying to figure out, when's everybody's getting in. And I had a pretty long drive. And then we hit your guys' Jersey traffic, and there was 2 accidents. And
that's my hometown.
And Jersey. Don't go there, ever. That's my recommendation. So we literally finally get in. We've been driving for 10 hours or whatever. It's just brutal. We've been talking 40K the whole time. Plenty of time to prep, by the way. So he did even more prep work. I think I went through every list. Didn't matter who it was. So we get out, and I get a couple messages. Hey, we're going to this place, but you got to bring your own alcohol. Weird. Okay, that's strange, but whatever. Also, you got to call and make sure you can get a reservation, and then they'll you have to pick a credit card hold to show up to the place. I'm like, dude, what is this strange place? So I call this guy that basically was like, I watched a 1925 gangster movie. That's how I'm living my life. Answered the phone and took my reservation and my card. I was like, well, I guess I'll cancel that card. That's being used as some sort of underground stuff is happening. But we get into the cab and we go to this place. And literally my cab driver, 1, doesn't speak English. 2, drops me off in a neighborhood. It's just a house. So I'm like, well, I guess we die. This guy just decided I live here. It's an old speakeasy at the Italian place. What was it called? God damn it.
It's the Italian place that Warren goes.
It was fancy. It was one of the best places I've ever eaten at.
I think it might have been the best meal I've ever had in my life.
It's this old speakeasy that was used back in the day. It was an old mob front, basically. And we had...
It was all family style, too.
Yeah.
And then there was famous people there.
They saw that the adults went upstairs. That's where Kramer, Sniggs, and myself ate. And then Werner and...
I was on the kids' table downstairs.
Went to the kids' table in the basement with no windows. We were outside.
But the owner, I don't remember his name. I should remember his name. He came up to us and he was like our server, even though he was the owner. It was really cool. And he was like telling us about this history of the place. Warner and I got into that. It was pretty cool. See, Siegs, I got into history.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. I do have a great non-40K related story though from ACO, and that was Nick canceling my business card.
on being a responsible adult.
Nick comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, was there a charge for this amount?" And I go, "Yeah, that's the hotel charge." He's like, "Well, I canceled that card. So you're going to have to find a new way to pay for the hotel.
Strong. Bold move, Nick.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. So it's AC, right? And like, you know how AC can be like if you're not going to bed early and eating ice cream. So I got a text at 2:30 in the morning saying there's a $250 charge to this credit card with the last four digits I did not recognize. And it was asking me, is this you or is this fraudulent? I'm like, this isn't even my card. What are you talking about? I was like, this is fraudulent. So I canceled that. And then I thought
I
nothing
so
of
wish
it.
you weren't with Siegs at the tournament so you just cancel his card while he's there and don't tell him.
He didn't message me.
So I didn't even think of Siegs. Because I also, this was Thursday night and the tournament started Friday morning. And I thought Siegs and John and Jack had this weird Siegs and John and Jack plan to drive there Friday morning to stay the night on the hotel from Jack's house because you're staying in Jersey. I thought that was the plan. I must have been mistaken. But so I was like, Siegs isn't even here yet. This isn't even possible to be Siegs. This is just nonsense. So I canceled that card. And then the next day I see Siegs at breakfast. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? And then I realize all the light bulbs start connecting and flashing. And I'm like,
You're like,
oh,
as Siegs is getting forcefully removed from the hotel. You're like, that was Nick's plan all along. He was like, Siegs brought an anti-Dark Eldar list. Well, best way to beat Siegs, throw him out. Real quick, I want to give thanks to over here. The comments were, you guys optimized the spirit of sportsmanship during those semifinals. I've never seen top four so relaxed and chill. Hope you all like the picks I got during the semifinals. Yes, yes, and yes. That was one of our big things, guys. And I stand behind this 100%. It's always been like kind of my motto. Play by intent. Fucking be a gentleman. But I think that actually makes the game more competitive on that because you're not looking for shenanigan ways to play. You know what I mean? When I play these guys, either, I know that I'm going to have to play my best game to win the game, but neither one of them are looking for like excuses to win kind of thing. Random,
right.
Random,
To what you're saying, I play like one of the best games of 40K I like ever play against you two specifically because like there's like ultimate trust going on. Like there's no cheating, there just is none, and I don't have to think about that. I'm not worried about them trying to win that way, or there's no nonsense about intent. If this is what I wanted to do and it was legal, this is what's going to happen. And I love that because it lets you really just focus on the strategy and the tactics to the game.
Dude, this is funny actually. This one sinks. So even in the final, he did this semi before. We're in the finals. We're playing. I moved terrain. I asked the judge because I didn't want to roll somewhere where he couldn't see. I'm rolling my dice, and I can't get Nick to acknowledge any of my dice rolls. He refuses to look at them.
The first two turns of the game, Brad, like his deployment is everywhere. He's just got crap everywhere in his army. So the only place he can roll where there's not just stuff is behind a ruin. So he's rolling his whole turn behind a ruin. I'm like trying to pay attention, but I can't see it. And I'm not worried about Brad cheating me, as we just discussed. I just don't know what's happening. And Brad's like, roll your saves. And I'm like, how many saves? What's happening? And
I literally go, I'm not comfortable doing this. So I literally moved terrain. I asked if I could move the terrain because it didn't make a difference where it was at the time. And then Nick still won't look at him though. I'm like, dude, come on. He's like, just tell me. I'm like, the whole point of me rolling these is so you can see it. He's like, but I don't want to.
Because you blew up one of my raiders. This drove me nuts. You would blow up one of my raiders, and then I had to take the time to disembark my models, roll there, see who dies, and move on with life. And you would just be like, I'm shooting you continuously while I'm doing this. And I have no idea what you're doing because I'm trying to place an incubi, and you're like, they're already dead, Nick.
Like, just accept that fact and move on with life. You know what? We still didn't answer the question from like 20 minutes ago, Siegs. You said you got ready for Dark Eldar, and then you just call your tournament prep after that. It was literally your whole tournament prep?
That was it.
Was Dark Eldar?
Enemy number 2 was Space Marine Dreadnoughts, and that's the second reason that I ran the missile pod army, because overall I can kill 2 to 3 dreadnoughts reliably in a turn, and most of those lists run 5. So if I kill 2 or 3, I can take a turn of their damage with the amount of drones I have, and then after that I kill the remaining dreadnoughts and I win the game. So those are the main 2 considerations. Honestly, all the other matchups I wasn't very concerned about.
You'll listen to the Art of War podcast for Siegs' full 2-hour breakdown of listening to Tao. I did it the other day. It was great.
If you want to play sportsmanship, that's just the way I like to play as well. Like, for instance, I have this single drone called the Grav Drone, and Nick is a huge fan of him. So every charge declared within 12 inches is minus D3.
I
And
overcommit to killing that thing so hard. I was ready to shoot it with my entire army yesterday. These two drones.
I hide this guy in all sorts of nooks and crannies. Really hard to shoot at him. But when I see my opponent about to commit their turn in their movement phase to do big charges, and they're going for like 8 or 9 inch charges, and I have the grav drone here, I'm telling them like, all right, just remember, I have the grav drone here. If you don't find a way to kill it, it's going to be minus D3 to all your charges, just so they have a clear sense and don't get to the charge phase, start declaring like, oh, I thought I had a 9 inch charge. Well, you had a 9 minus D3, with additional D3 on there. So that's just the way I like to play. I played against Will Pagonis on, I believe it was round 3 at ACO, and I actually forgot to bring my Vespid in to finish off Scramblers, and he was a super gentleman in letting me bring it back, even though it was at the end of the
I
turn.
love people like that. That's just like the way you want to win 40K, is because I beat you, not because you
Scam something out. Yeah, we've
He's
had that happen. But here's the question. If you tailored for Drakari, how did you feel when you found yourself in an undefeated Talmir? Also, did you basically look around to make sure that you weren't in some sort of weird dream world where you were in an undefeated Talmir at ACO?
It's rare.
It's rare, he says. I think that was a unicorn, Siegs.
Yeah, I mean, like people were like, "Are there two Tau playing each other on the top tables?" Like, what?
Even without that, like 9th edition, you don't play the Tau Mirror matchup outside of like round 1. I did not expect to play against Tau, but it was a really good game. Very, very close in the end. He ended up going for sacrificing a lot of his army to kill all my infantry to deny Scramblers, and I went for killing all his Walby stands. And that ended up giving me the 5-point swing to win the game in the end. But it was a really interesting tactical game, and several people came over to watch it just because of how crazy it is to see a Tau Mirror matchup in 9th edition. So both of our armies are like relentless point scoring factories. So we actually both went for strategies where we tried to specifically deny a particular secondary, which made it really interesting.
Were you guys disappointed that we didn't have a stream at ACL?
Yeah, I would have loved to stream. I just like playing on stream.
Same here. I actually think that less shenanigans. It's a double-edged sword, because if you make any mistake about anything ever, obviously the community will drop the people's elbow on you. But I tend to think that games are more on the level with active judging and on the stream, just because people are less likely to pull shenanigans. That's just my opinion.
So, like, if I'm not 100% sure of a rule myself, I call myself on to the point where I will stop myself to look it up. Just because, like, I don't want to be wrong. The consequences of being wrong are so high these days if you're a community figure. So I will take every precaution to make sure I'm not wrong. Like, just have that mindset. You'll be right because you looked it up and have a fun game.
All of these.
I love the stream. The stream, just a way to continuously engage the community with top table games, which, we try and put as many high level games as possible on the Art of War channel. But I like, getting to see us or other top players play and show it off to the community.
I like to have it too. I mean, I like it if you can attend the tournament too. It's nice to have.
Yeah,
a lot
lets
of
you feel like you're part of it.
It feels like
you're
that you're engaged on it. I love having you guys. Like for instance, the Lone Star's coming up, and I won't be at that one. You know what I mean? And I'll definitely have you guys on for the top tables on that. You know what I mean? Just to check and see what's going on. You know what I mean?
Are they streaming Lone Star? Is that confirmed?
I do not. I hope so.
Oh, I hope so too.
They said they projected to do so. They couldn't do it this time because I think Val has a lot of this setup, and he's trapped up in Canada. But I think hopefully he'll be able to make it down to Lone Star. It's just great seeing more 40K overall. The publicity.
Yeah, without the streaming, the events they're awesome and they're a great way to bring the community together on a small scale. But the streaming is what brings it to the larger scale.
Exactly. Like following BCP is one thing, but following the actual stream game and getting commentary, that's a totally different beast.
Yeah. So, Siegs, I have a question for you. How did it feel, like, as you were doing it, as you got closer and closer round after round after round, to actually going the distance with Tau? Because I know in the beginning, your mentality was, I'm just going to do as well as I can with Tau. And that's a great mentality. But, you see the gold trophy within reach. How does that feel?
Real quick on that before you answer that, Siegs, we do have confirmation that Val and the Dingo will be down at the Lone Star stream.
That is awesome. Look for that stream from the FLG event Lone Star. So in terms of, I never put my pressure on myself to win an event. I think that's just, that's a bridge too far. Like, there's so many top players that go to these big super majors.
Everybody loses, man. Just everybody loses.
Oh yeah.
Everybody loses. Like I lose on
Absolutely.
stream games. Nick
Like,
loses stream games too.
I lose all the time.
It's
Like,
a dice
I have
rolling
so many
game,
wins
man.
on the record. I also have so many losses on the record. It's okay.
Yeah. So like at the end of the day, expecting to go 9-0 at an event is not that's not my goal. Instead, like Nick said, my initial goal was to try and do the best I could with Tau. Once top 8 was in reach, I was like, that's the goal now. Top 8. Day 2, I was like, I'm 3-0. Heading into that, I want to make top 8 with Tau. All right, so I can afford one loss, but I have to really score high in the other ones. Ended up going 6-0. That felt amazing. Then I got to play Sean Naden in the quarterfinals of the top 8. Got to win that matchup and head into the semis. I was just just happy. And at that point,
No,
it was
Siegs, I have a side story on that one for you. So there was a group of us eating the night before the top 8 on Saturday night, and we're all sitting there, and everybody's talking. I had Ogden, I had Naden with me, and a couple of the guys. We were just talking about obviously our games the next day, and Naden makes this elaborate exactly what he's gonna do, how he's gonna play you, and talks about he's like 100%. This is the way it is. We're like, all right, good, perfect. And then after your guys' game, he sits down and talks to me, and I go, well, how'd the plan go? He's like, oh, I didn't utilize it at all. I go, why not? He's like, I'm not sure. Probably would have done a lot better than what happened. I'm like, what happened? He's like, I don't know what happened. I had that strategy. Like, you literally spent a lot of time on that. He's like, yeah. And then when the game started, I didn't do any of that stuff. I was just like, what did Siegs mesmerize you? He's like, I don't know. He's like, we talked about it afterwards, and he also agreed that would have been way better than what I actually did.
going into the game, John Naden, super scary player, one of the top players, Team USA captain. He knows what he's doing. I played him once before with Leviathan, played in semifinals of LVO against him, so knew how good he is. And he's running a very scary Eldar list because it has a lot of NSU indirect fire, so it can actually pick off the drones pretty efficiently. Then he has a ton of Dark Lances and just high AP shooting, so he could actually do some damage to the Crisis unit. So my big worry here is that he goes ahead and over the first 3 turns just kills pretty much every drone, and then he commits in those last couple turns. Just tries to get enough out of the primaries possible in those early turns, and commits all his shooting, turn 3 or so when I don't have many drones left, and is actually able to do damage to my Crisis unit, which means my late game is pretty shot. So that was my big worry. Instead, what happened is I basically put I went first, moved my army up, was able to shoot 1 Raider away, and that was it, and put half my drones out. Because I was like, if I can just tempt him to commit his shooting early, he won't do enough to the Crisis unit, and then I get to wipe all his shooting, and then I'm in an amazing spot for the rest of the mission. And that's exactly what happened. For some reason, he was tempted to do it. He brought both Scourge units with the Dark Lances out, brought all the Reapers out, brought the Falcon, whatever it is, and he had to use Dark Reapers to finish off the drones, so he only had Dark Lances left in the Crisis unit. And Scourges hitting on 4s with no rerolls is not where you want to be. The first unit only hit once, and then the second unit hit 3 times and I think wounded twice. But I ended up only losing 2 Crisis models, and then the rest of the Crisis unit picked up pretty much all the Scourge, full unit of Scourges, all the Dark Reapers, and then another Raider, his second Raider. So that was enough damage. The Remora helped kill some of the Scourges that were left. And from that point on, not only did I have great board control against him, but I also had most of my damage because the rest of the drones popped out. And from then on, I was just pushing into him. So I don't know what happened. Maybe he was tempted by half the drones. That's kind of what I thought. But I was very scared if he was going to play that late. Like, I'm going to wait till turn 3 to really commit my
he literally talked about it. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick him off. I'm going to take it. And then I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, not that.
It happened. He went for a big play turn 1.
I did tell him that he was the diplomat now of 40K. He's like, look at me. I go, because you've unified the entire 40K community around the hatred of Darkland Scourges. I go, boo.
I played Darkland Scourges one time in a test game because I was on the how do I beat all these stupid John Dreadnoughts kick. So I was like, I'll just deep strike 12 Dark Lances on their face and shoot them. And I played a game, and They just did exactly what Sieg said, which is hit on fours with no rerolls and suck. And I was like, this is not the answer.
And then you realize you modeled all of them that look like stormtroopers, and they didn't even do
So I was like, I played one game. They didn't even do badly that game, but they didn't do well, and I was like, this feels bad. This isn't the answer.
Ooh, before we go into the rest of our ACO stuff, because I have way more questions for both of you, I want to get this question because I actually like it a lot. What do you think of the 3 Marine armies that made top 8, and how different do you think the top 8 would have been post FAQ?
Ooh, I want to start with Sasha's because we just interviewed him for the Art of War podcast yesterday. He's got a really cool Black Templar. So I got the pleasure of playing him in the quarterfinals.
Horribly underrated, by the way, as Marines.
So good. They're so good. They're just so good. I want to. If I was playing Marines today, I'd either play Ravenwing or Black Templars. And I just like fast stuff and tricky stuff, and those are the two fast, tricky stuff I like. Not Yellow White Scars. I'm on a.
Yellow White Scars. Come on.
But yeah,
it's a history of goodness.
We're done with Yellow White Scars.
Magnus Morty in a night. Don't want to see that.
The bane of my existence.
I'm never gonna live this down.
Nobody will let you forget if you lose to a meme list.
But see, that's why it's okay to lose. It is. It is. You get made fun of on the internet forever.
Well, people remember that.
You want to be remembered for your losses. That's the funny part.
By the way, he doesn't tell you the lead up for this. He called multiple of us, of all his friends, top players, and literally is like, what about this? And every one of us was like, haven't you been playing the same list for like 8 months to a year and have like a 90% win rate? He's like, yes. It's like, wouldn't that be better than doing this? And he goes, 100% yes. And then I get a call. Nick just put in his list. It's White Scars.
I had a moment. I don't know what that moment was.
I don't know if you popped on a bed and were like, I've been spoken. Zinch has called me. The gods of chaos said I'm playing White Scars.
Specifically was like, there's a list of people who I will not talk to about this because they will talk me out of it. And there was a list of people who would talk me into it. And I only talked to the people who would talk me into it. This is a very conscious choice.
I love everything about that.
Like Ziggs and John are like, why didn't you talk to us? We could have helped you. I was like, no.
But all right, we went a little, we sidetracked that. But what do you guys think about that? Like, how would things look different post nerf?
I think the nerf has just made everything more diverse. Like my Dark Eldar feel like a really good like tactical army instead of just a bully that's just better than you. So I like that a lot. I'm a little worried about Admech though. Ziggs is killing people out here.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah,
I'm dropping the blessing of the Omnisci on people.
It is not a blessing.
Or you're getting tabled.
I'm like, I had the one game with my Death Guard. It was laughable. I wasn't even tough. I was just like, oh, he's shooting guardsmen. This is fun. It was Terminators.
That was the first draft, to be clear. It got a lot better since then.
I'm not going to lie, right now, AdMech are so nasty with the buffs on them that I have to continually look back over the rules to go, I can't be doing that right every time I do it.
I haven't read the AdMech rules. I'm just going to pretend it's going to get nerfed, and when it does, then I'll learn them.
Well, the great thing is that Nick is playing them in the War Room with his post-nerf Drukhari list next week. I cannot wait.
Do we have 2 or 3 AdMech games next week?
2 AdMech games.
We have versus Sisters versus Drukhari, right?
I see. You're not letting me ignore the AdMech problem.
I'm just not letting you.
You're not letting me.
People want to see it. People want to see what you
no.
come up with.
Come on.
Drukhari is a really strong faction.
I'm actually all about my new Drukhari list. Brad, have you worked on Drukhari at all?
Yeah, man, I'm actually super excited about my list because I already had, because we all know that I'm, besides being the ultimate bandwagon chaser, I also am a fluff guy, so I read just ridiculous amounts of stupid 40K stuff. If you don't go to sleep at night, you have tons of time to get more media and read books and watch movies.
This could be why you're broken.
But I'm running a double Cult and a Cabal. And I'm running double Hellions, which I love. And double Hellions, double Witches, 2 10-man Witches, 2 10-man Hellions. And then I brought the Raiders down because I wanted just more bodies. And then I've got double Mandrakes because I think that between Sisters and AdMech and just other units that can just, people that can just start forward deploying or scout moving, I think you just have to stop that. So I think that if you have the option to use them, and you don't have the option of just going, if you move up, I'll just flame you 800 times. I don't have that to fall back on. You have to push that out. So I'm running the triple the basically the same old with 3 units of 5 incubi, double mandrake, but then I've got double hellions, double witches, and I like the list a lot. I mean, I've got
How many raiders do you have?
Four raiders, and then I have a unit of Trueborn, and I like the. I actually stole this completely. I have no problems with admitting this. I like the Court of the Archon so much that I'm taking it.
It's so good. It's so good. It's so good.
It's so many wounds and so many attacks. It's so irritating.
Why are they 3 wounds and have a 5 of Funeral Pain?
Don't ask questions like that.
Shut your face, Siegs. I'm already mad that I can't liquefy you into another dimension.
Brad, we are in such different places with Dark Eldar. Like, it's not even the same hemisphere. So
no, but the funny thing is I have 2 lists. I have a 6 Chronos list also. But
yeah. I'm not even on Chronos anymore. You haven't seen my latest version. I played it yesterday against Siegs in the War Room. We got a beautiful draw. We did an ACO rematch. It was Siegs' Tau versus my new Drukhari with no liquefiers, and it's a very different list. I'm going super MSU. I have like 26 units in it, and it's just stuff that plays the mission is the concept.
Same. I do have a Scourge unit. I have a Scourge unit, and I have a 3-man bike unit just to do nonsense. Shredders, of course.
So I have 2 Scourge units, 2 bike units, 2 Razorwing flock units, a Beastmaster. Like, I have gone all in on just garbage. And I just flood the table doing all kinds of stuff. I don't have Trueborn. I don't have Big Witch units.
I have a Trueborn right now, and I hate them. I'm not going to lie. I want something to blow up tanks, but, like...
They're not good at it. They're like... with all the other lances, they can add up together.
They're just so close.
But anyways, we drew. This beautiful game.
Yeah, it was in the War Room, really great game, and that follow-up question for what would my Tau list look like today post-FAQ, honestly, I think you can keep the list relatively the same. The only options are if you're running in a more Drukhari heavy meta, I'd run more Remora drones. If you're not, I like keeping the Riptide because it's so good into Marines, and I also think it's quite good into AdMech as well.
I was just saying, what about the AdMech and Sisters, Siegs? Is that going to change the Tau list up a lot for you? I mean, obviously... Go ahead.
I think you can keep the same list, honestly. And the hardest thing is you have to have tools to deal with the Ranger bricks. Maybe add in a couple plasma rifles instead of mass missile pods on the unit of Crisis Veterans. Or you trade Farsight for a commander who can help do damage into the Ranger units for you.
I love that you're doing like subliminal advertising to Siegs while he's talking.
But I think the core stays the same, and if you need a little extra tailoring for Ranger bricks, you look at some AP3 in there. But 3 Unity at least helps in that regard, and obviously Tau have a lot of ways to reroll wounds, which certainly helps into Lucius.
I'm just so glad Bradley's trying the court now. I've done it. I got Brad to like one of my crazy Nick ideas.
Only 1 court.
I do that.
Yeah, getting 2 Archons kind of sucks.
No, I'm not going to lie. I don't even like the Archon. I do love the court, though.
I like my Archon. He fights twice and kills everybody.
I mean, I've been running a lot of... The Archon's okay, but he's just not a succubus. How about that?
I think he basically is a succubus. He's like better than a
succubus. And you act like he fights twice every time. He fights twice once.
How many times do you use your Archons and succubus? They only get in 1 combat that matters.
He's not a succubus.
Oh my god.
Oh man. Exactly. I was just about to say I do have Urgles. That's the weird thing is I have Urgles from forever ago. I have a Blackstone Fortress box that
I don't know. John is like a wizard with this stuff. He's like an endless magical box of making models appear. I was playing Dark Eldar. I was like, I like these look at these Quartz the Archon. So I crafted slits and Urgles out of the air through my ways. John literally just made them appear. He has 2 full quartz with real Urgles. 8 actual Urgles. I'm like, what?
Blackstone Fortress, baby. That's where you get them from.
You buy 4 Blackstone Fortresses to get the Urgles? This is crazy. He ran 2 quartz.
Ooh.
John goes to a lot of random GTs and wins a lot of prizes.
That's true.
Indeed he does. He did taunt me mercilessly, by the way. So John goes down to Tampa, wins a GT, calls me up. By the way, I talked to him earlier, and he says, hey, I want to talk. And I go, John, I am really feeling bad. I got a super bad migraine. I'm pretty dead to the world. And he still just goes, calls me up and goes, just wanted to let you know I saw you won a night for winning ACO. I had trouble getting my $500 of prize support in the car. I was just comparing it to what you got. Are you still
He
feeling...
also got a giant sword.
Yeah, and he got a sword. And he goes, you still feeling bad? I go, significantly worse now that you called and taunted me. He's like, cool, just wanted to know. See you later. I just started cracking up.
In 2019, I went to a 32-person GT in Florida and got $500 in store credit. Like, Florida GTs, they're a totally different level if you want prize support. Like,
Is it Florida GTs, or is the rest of the world needs to get what the prize support
get the prize. Toledo, we got really good. Toledo and all the Michigan. Tom Ogden, who was running the Dark Angels that runs Death or Glory, and they do the Great Lakes Gaming. Those guys give away a stupid amount of prizes. So we have good things around here too, like locally in the Midwest, Toledo, Michigan. But I got a question for you guys. What was your hardest and what was your favorite matchup? And I'd prefer if they weren't the same, or give it like you were doing best general and overall.
My favorite game was against Siegs, because it was just like a really great game. Like, it was really tactical, it was really hard, it was really close, and at least it pushed me as a player. Like, I definitely had to like find a way to win that game. Where, I mean, it was a really chill, relaxed game, so like it maybe didn't seem that way, but as a player, I definitely had to like think on my feet on that one. And then my toughest matchup, I don't know, you beat me twice. That's pretty hard.
Weird thing to do, lose to somebody, the same person.
That's a first. Like, I've done a lot of 40K tournaments, Chester. You got me twice in the same one. That's never happened.
How about yourself, Siegs?
So I really enjoyed the game against Nick as well, but I'll go with a different one. I believe it was my round 2 matchup. Played against Joseph, a War Room member. Had a terrific game against him. At the end of the game, he said that I was his favorite of the Art of War stream house, and we all went around and got some signed objective mats for him. It was really a pleasure playing against him, and hope he did well in the rest of the tournament, and hope he enjoys the rest of our content. Thank you so much, Joseph. It was a pleasure playing against you. And then in terms of the toughest matchup, outside of Nick, I would say it was my round 3 against the Ravenwing. That list, I was playing direct assault or sweep and clear, and he put his whole army on the line and went first. Pre-game moved his land speeders up, and then just advanced everything up, and pretty much by turn 2 his entire army was in my deployment zone, what he had left after my first shooting phase. Nice. So I was just I was playing that game from behind, and any swings in his favor could have been really disastrous for me because he played it super well. So that was a really tough game. Came down to those last turn.
I'm going to give my toughest game was my round 6, the Ogden game. We were playing battle lines, and both of us apparently had the exact same strategy, which was to take one flank super hard, and then we literally ended up taking each other's home objectives, and I barely pointed that out. I was like, hey man, this would have probably been better if we would have played a normal game as opposed to just taking 90% of our forces and ignoring the other person and gone back into their backfield.
That's like what I did to Siegs. I just ignored him.
Yeah. Well, we were just kind of, we knew we had to get points. Win or lose, we were like, I'm getting points. You know what I mean? Like, I just have to score. So I'm like, I don't even care what happens in this. I need points. But,
that was also my game with you. I actually didn't really care who won or lost because I figured we would both try to make top 8 by just the hard way if we didn't just go win out. So I was like, that's why I went with the let's play super aggressive, because at the end of the day, I'll get table and get 80 points out of it. Yeah.
I have to give Nick props on this because my favorite, I'm going to give two props. One, I played Bill in, I think my second game. By the way, my strength of schedule was insanity. I just played tough games the whole time. My favorite game, I went second on one of the low tables that you had nowhere to deploy, and I'm playing Bill Lee, and he literally has D cannons, 3 units of Reapers, Night Spitters, and a bunch of Dark Eldar stuff. It's a mixed detachment on that mixed league. He wins to go first. I had to just deploy on the line. There is literally nowhere to deploy. I could have put my pen in front of me and just been like, can't see me. And I was like, this is going to be rough. And he proceeds to roll hot garbage. Kills
oh my God.
0 Raiders turn 1. And I just look at him and I just go, you okay if I just go buy drinks? And he's like, yes. I was just like looking at the board and then I collapsed down. But I'm gonna have to give Nick props on the 4th game. I was feeling like a hot dumpster fire and then I lost the Raider. If I wouldn't be playing one of my friends, I would have had a tough day too, because that was a tough way to start. Like the day, I'm just like, oh.
Well, I wasn't gonna let you have a bad game. You're my Bradley.
Thank you, sir.
It's so funny you just told that story. So in my round 3, I also played against Ravenwing, much like Mr. Siegs, and it was terrifying because we don't actually have Ravenwing in the house. John's working on that, so we're all Ravenwing practice, and you could use some work as a team. So we're gonna work on that. We'll get you Ravenwing on stream. Anyways, so I'm like going in blind, and you know me with my homework. As we discussed, there was none. So the Ravenwing army is just deployed, and it's direct assault. So we're like pretty close to each other, and I'm like hiding behind my middle L. But if you drive up and touch it, you can see right through it. It's full of windows, and I don't think he's gonna do it because then you're just driving up to the Dark Elder Army's windows. But he could. He's fast. So turn 1, he wins the roll first turn. He like stares at the board. This is John Damaris, our podcast partner for a while. And he's like a solid player. He's been listening to us podcast about 40K. He's been coaching. He's really good. And he's like, I don't think I can beat you, Nick, in like a prolonged war where we're just playing 40K. I think I need to go for it. This is like the scariest thing someone can say to me in the tournament. I'm like, you're like an above average player who knows like how to play this game strategically to maximize the chance of winning. Just like go for it and hope it works out for you.
And also just threw caution to the wind.
Threw caution to the wind. Like it's out of my hands, out of your hands. Like remove skill is the determining factor. Great. So he drives forward. He's got like 6. It's every multi-melta in the Imperium. There's 6 land speeders with multi-meltas. There's 3 units of 3 attack bikes with multi-meltas. There's 3 bike squads with flamers in each squad and each an attached multi-melta attack bike. And all of this drives 23 inches or whatever it is into my deployment zone turn 1. There's a Ravenwing army in my deployment zone turn 1. And I'm like just here. Like I'm getting shot. I'm like, I just hope I survive with enough stuff to do something about this, but I might not. And the whole army shoots. It's like 26 multi-melta shots, all the bolters, all the flamers, all that stuff. He kills like my 5 warriors and my 5 witches who were just deployed in the open. Yeah, okay, whatever. And all those 20 whatever multi-meltas and the rest of the bolters, they killed 1 Kronos.
Oh, that seems odd.
And then the game was over.
You're like, well, then that worked out.
I don't know what happened. I didn't roll that many 6s. You just could not roll anything. Awesome.
Love everything about that. So I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to give us some wrap-up thoughts, so we don't keep everybody here till the end of time.
Sounds good.
What do you guys feel about Death on the Wind? It was being played at ACO. They were basically making it so if they made a charge, it was 2 points. How do you feel the Ravenwing list would complete without 15 free victory points? Myself, go ahead.
No, I just go first.
Yeah, I think that the Ravenwing still is very, very strong. I think that they get most of their points anyways because against most armies, it would change a little bit versus things like Siegs, which don't have as many things to just pick up. Versus the Dark Elder, it wouldn't have changed anything because they get 2 points every time they nuke something. Moving 12.
I had all the 2-man drone units, so he got that. In turn 2, he maxed it.
Oh, that's true.
Regardless of how you ruled Death on the Wind.
I don't think it would have made any difference.
John Damaris actually didn't max it against me because of how he played it. He had no models.
Well, he also just decided that multi-meltas weren't able to beat your T6 5-up invuln. So
he was shooting the Kronos mostly, and they had 6-up invulns, and I wasn't passing them. But you know what his problem was? He was letting me roll the Feel No Pains.
Feel no pains. You can't let it happen.
No, you can't trust those 5s.
Can't trust those 5s. Get sneaky in here. So, well, let's talk about. I want to give you guys' basically last wrap up thoughts. The good, the bad, the ugly, things that we could have done, could have done. Just give me your high takes on Atlantic City, your experience, and things that maybe people want to know about going to a bigger tournament that weren't there.
I only have good. This was an awesome event. I wish there was streaming like we talked about, but from my perspective, it was great. Super fun event. Loved seeing all my friends I haven't seen for a while. Had some amazing games of 40K, like great tournament level 40K. And Art of War dominated. That's like the dream, right? 3 out of 4 in the top 4, and then Art of War finals, like, and then Chesty won. You gotta go for Chesty. And Siegs with the towel. So proud of Siegs with the towel. I'm just so proud of my boys.
My boys are all grown up.
We're proud of you too, Nick. Didn't put the homework in, but didn't matter. Just came in there with your card. Guaranteed. Boom. Punch the ticket.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want to get your mentality and still do that. I'm like, I spent so much time working over like math, efficiency, what I need to kill certain units, looking over everybody's army list, and you're like, hey guys, where am I? I guess I'll play in this tournament. I just woke up here.
No, I think about 40K in my, like, I don't like crunch the numbers in an Excel
Like in a
calculator.
dream, like you had a vision quest or something.
Yeah, I'll think about 40K, and that's good enough. Like, I don't, yeah.
Let me echo what Nick said about it was great having a super major back again. Another huge event. We got to see tons of people. It was a pleasure seeing all of you. Anybody who ever comes to events that we're at, please do come up, say hello. We love hearing that how much you enjoy the stream games and the content that we put out. So it was an absolute pleasure. Everybody who came out to me, it was very nice meeting all of you. Now, Clown Mode here with a $5 super chat.
I was about to say, I was letting go, but thank you.
What are your tips for players trying to use quote-unquote bad armies? So the biggest thing here is reps. I have been playing Tau pretty consistently over the past 3-4 months. I found a list archetype that actually does decently into the meta and plays the mission well. And then it came down to I need to finesse the options, really refine what I'm using. And the biggest thing about using these armies is you need to pretty much pull out every trick in the book each game. So, we were talking about this last night in the War Room game where I was playing Tau against Nick's poster card list. There are so many opportunities for Nick to just mess that game up if he didn't have many games into Tau. Now, I'm the type of person to let people know, like once again with the grab drone, I will tell people if they're going to try and base their turn around making charges, this drone is here, and he will ruin your turn if you don't deal with him.
Ruin your day.
He will ruin your day. The whole day will be ruined if you let that thing happen.
Just all the setting up emergency disembark plays, how fast the army is, me trying to tag people in combat with Tau units. Not a lot of people have experience against Tau, and they will make moves like some people try and put all their damage in the crisis unit, waste an entire turn while exposing their army, and then I just cripple them. Stuff like that. If you're using an army people aren't familiar with, you need to take advantage of that. Not in a bad way of gotching people, but just using your experience with the army to get every single point that you could out of a matchup. And that was big, playing 8 games with Tau at ACO. Nick was the only person there that had real experience against Farsight Enclaves.
To echo your point, Siegs, I wouldn't have beaten you if I didn't have like a million reps against you. Like,
never cheered so hard for Nick in my whole life.
It's just like there's no way I'm beating Siegs. Nick, do this.
You guys' entire game, I was planning against Siegs' list, and I'm sitting there, and then like you walked away, and I'm like, I won. I was like, congratulations. Also, tearing pieces of paper up. Yes.
That was one of the same games with Aaron, like that I won that you couldn't believe. It felt like that. Like, I couldn't believe I had won that game. I thought I was convinced I was losing for most of it.
Ooh, I want to jump on board what you were talking about, Siegs, real quick before we rock and roll. Winning with bad armies, but any army, you have to design and play your army with the ability to score points. I see too many people, especially if you're playing an army that doesn't have a codex, maybe an underpowered, whatever. You can't just line up and try to take turns kicking each other. You have to have a game plan to score points, because in the end, there's plenty of games that I've been tabled and won the game. You know what I mean? So it's about 9th edition is about scoring points. So you have to have a game plan, and Siegs had a great game plan for literally scoring points. No matter what kind of damage he was taking and stuff, he's scoring points every turn, and he's got an army that's designed to take his secondaries, perform secondaries, perform actions, take the board, engage, all those things. I'll end on my ACO wrap up, man. Guys, whether you go 0-6, 6-0, you still can have a great time. Score your own points. Have a great time. The best time of the game is not the game. It's talking about the game later, saying how ridiculous it was that Nick made 77 5-up Feel No Pains in a row. Siegs made 12-inch charges. You want to have a sandwich, hang out with your buddies, and meet some new people and hang out. It doesn't matter. I mean, we're always trying to perform to our top peak of whatever we're doing, but man, in the end, it's about basically being able to tell the stories later on.
That's what it's all
As
about.
anybody's ever gone anywhere with me, I am totally willing to talk about everything I've ever done in detail all the time. So I'm always looking for a new story to add to that. Guys, thanks everyone. You guys, you two specifically, thanks for being drug into this for me. We're going to be doing this more often. We're just going to be talking just to talk. We are looking always for things that you guys want to hear about. We'll do just roundtables about literally anything. We just want to take a chance to hang out, engage with the community, and just do it in a real, just a personable way, and just basically talk about things you guys want to talk about. So always looking for things you want to do. And until next time, everyone, enjoy the weekend. Give a wave, guys. That's the opportunity to wave.
Thanks so much.
Waving.
We'll see you. We got tons of stream games coming up. Check out all the content that is going to be coming up next week, including AdMech games. Exaltations, the Omnissiah.
Boom.